And today we have the chance to meet with the Mayor of Clarence-Rockland, Mario Zanth. So hi, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. So my first question for you today is, what is your main objective for the new year that is coming?
So we've just settled with the United Counties actually regarding the speeding cameras that will be going on the 17. That had to be done. Obviously, they own the road, and so we had to negotiate with them on the specifics. And the community safety zone is mandated by the province as anything under 80 kilometers an hour. And so we will be able to put cameras on the 17. That's going to be coming, I think, before the summer, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
We've planning on becoming a processing center as well. Because once we're going to have that expertise on hand, we're going to be shopping this around to other municipalities that have speeding cameras, but that don't want to pay for the training and maintaining of the staff. So we're hoping to get into some really good agreements, I guess you could say, to treat and process other municipalities' tickets through our City Hall, and then in turn keeping a certain percentage of that. So it's all in trying to raise more funds and to stop relying on the taxpayer to pay everything. So we have to be innovative in how we do that. We've found out late last year or late this year that a new French public secondary school was going to be coming. So I'm hoping that that's going to break ground in 2025. We also have the Score Tennis Academy that'll be breaking ground as well. I've been working with the province as well as the Centre d'accueil Roger Séguin, which is a long-term care home in Clarence Creek, to finally build that. We've been talking about this for 6 years.
Okay.
And the administrative staff at Roger Séguin, which are incredible people, have been trying to get this gap funding. We're short about 14 million. And not that long ago, actually, I texted the Premier, Doug Ford, and I told him I wanted to talk to him about something that was pressing. And that very same day, he called me back, put me in touch with the minister, which 10 minutes later gave me a call. And we've been working very, very closely with them. We've been working hard with the Centre d'accueil Roger Séguin's administrative staff as well, to just make sure that we get this. If we lose this funding, and if we cannot build the new one, we're at risk of losing 113 francophone long-term care beds. And so I made sure I communicated that with the Premier. He understood. And so right now we're hopefully that's going to be happening in 2025. So a lot of projects coming up. We've laid the groundwork in 22 and 23 to just be able to have that policy in place. The strategic plan was adopted last year as well. That's going to provide us with that flexibility to be able to do more of what citizens requested us to do through surveys and through Talktober. And so we're looking forward to continuing the hard work that citizens want us to do.
In November, the Board Council met to determine the budget for the 2025 year. What will be the broad outline of this budget?
So obviously roads are going to be a big important part of that. We also did the plan, the strategic plan for the building assessment. I think it's called the building condition assessment. That's what it is, and that reviews all of the buildings that the municipality owns. So what are we keeping? What are we not keeping? What are we modernizing? And so that's going to be a huge part of that. The task force for the Jean-Marc Lalonde Arena, for example, is a great example of trying to figure out exactly what we're going to do with the buildings that we have. So there are a lot of things. There are a lot of things coming. A lot of them that are very difficult to try to figure out which ones are going to be first and how we're going to be able to get them done. But we're definitely on our way. So.
Yeah. And what will be the increase of the municipal tax that we can expect?
So we've settled on 6.98, and we've settled on 6.98 percentage, which that evens out to $169 a year on the average price of a home. It's important to understand as well as the average price of a home is as dictated by MPAC, not the value that you could sell your house for.
Okay.
And so this taxation is based on that valuation. I do have some notes actually here. Out of that $169 for the year, $31 are going to a road reserve, which was a bylaw that we can't change. Well, we could change it, but we don't want to. We actually want to invest in more roads, so this is good. $39 on non-core asset reserve, and that is to make sure that we have enough money that when our buildings and fleet need to be replaced, we're not going to go to the taxpayers to get that money. We're putting money away in a reserve to be able to have that at that time. The OPP obviously was a huge component of this taxation, and now they're at $28. So that provides us with $70 left on the average price of a home for the year to be able to do everything we need to do without any service cuts.
Okay.
So it's a budget that was difficult because everyone's already taxed out, and we know that. I know it. I pay them too. But if we look at other municipalities around us, we're looking at, I think there are some out there that started their budgets at 21%, at 19%, at 15%. Russell and Hawkesbury settled at 9.5 and 9.6. That was prior to the OPP funding that we received. Speaking of that, we were really happy that the provincial government, supported us through our, dare I say, cry of foul on receiving an invoice from the OPP that was substantially higher than what we were predicting. And so the City of Clarence-Rockland received upwards of $580,000, at which we put some down on this tax rate, but we kept some aside because that invoice is going to be higher in the future years as well. So we just wanted to make sure that we weren't throwing everything down at this one and then requesting citizens to, again, have a really high interest rate or high tax rate last year. We're just putting some aside, knowing that the province is not going to do this every year. So we're just trying to be prudent.
Mm-hmm. So since we're coming to the end of 2024, what would you say were the biggest achievement or developments from this year?
So in January, we announced the Score Tennis Academy, which was going to bring a $20 million investment to our city and have pickleball involved in that. It's really important to understand that there is no cost to the taxpayers with the building of this. We exchanged land in exchange for citizens having access to the facilities once they're built. The days of paying for these massive, sports facilities and putting that all on the back of citizens are done. We have to be able to go and get partners to be able to do this. And this is a great example of a partnership that I'm hoping will last a long time. We've got the new school coming in, as I mentioned earlier. So this is obviously going to provide us with more place. We have a lot of high schools that are just bursting at the seams, and so we were really, really thrilled that the provincial government provided us with a new school, there's tons of stuff coming up. The speeding cameras I mentioned as well. So we're going to be busy for this year for sure. Yeah.
And if we're coming back just really quickly about the tennis academy, what will happen to the courts in the Simon Park here in Rockland? Will they be in maintained?
The tennis courts right now, they're going to all be part of the Parks Master Plan, which is happening right now. So the work that I did with the task force for the Jean-Marc Lalonde Arena falls into this plan. We met with the consultants. They heard what the group had to say and took this into consideration. And now is going to go back and look at not just the parks that have the tennis courts here in Rockland, but are going to look at what does every other village need. So if we're going to have a tennis academy and we're going to have pickleball courts inside, then maybe we don't need them here, but maybe those tennis courts are needed in another village, Bourget or Cheney or Hammond or Clarence Creek or St. Pascal. So we're going to have to diversify what we have in our parks and make sure that it's an accurate reflection of the municipality at large. And so I'm looking forward. That should be tabled, I think, early 2025 with the Parks Master Plan for us to review and vote on how we're going to move forward. But that's that's going to take money to do. And again, those are all parts of things that, you know, go back into taxation. But it's my hope to be able to raise funds such as the speeding cameras. And if we can raise some funds to be able to put those funds into roads, if council wants to, then at least that alleviates financial pressure in other parts that we need the funding for.
And have there been some things that you couldn't complete this year, but you would have liked to see happen this year?
The speeding cameras were one that we really would have loved to have seen last year. Well, I should say in 2024, in this year, because you know, those would have helped us raise revenue a little bit faster, and also control the speeding on the streets, which are some people go incredibly fast. Just on Saint Joseph Street, which is a school zone, we've clocked some people using the old-fashioned rubber strips around the road. We've clocked some people doing, you know, 80 or 90 kilometers an hour on these roads. So it's really important to be able to slow people down. There are a lot of pedestrians on our streets, and we need to be able to hold them accountable. So those are things that I wish we would have been able to get that done, but we just finalized our plan with the United Counties of Prescott-Russell on that. I think it was a few weeks ago. So that's coming. The Score Tennis Academy, I wish would have broken ground in 2024, but high interest rates and different priorities on their end have made it that they were a little delayed. But we're hoping that that's going to happen in 2025 as well. So
yeah. And have there been any lessons you've learned throughout the 2024 year that you would like to bring into the 2025?
Lessons learned. I mean, there's always lessons learned. We try our best as a council to be open and to be accessible, and obviously I have been to the best of my ability. But lessons learned, I think, would just simply be to just continue to try and engage the public and the citizens in communicating directly with us. You know, I mean, I think social media is great, but people complaining on social media doesn't actually get anything done. It just stays there.
Yeah.
I look forward to having good conversations with individuals who want to see their city grow in a better direction. And yeah, I think lessons learned would be like, I need to probably just get out there more and try to have those conversations. But I am accessible. I mean, I'm on social media. People know my phone number. They have my email address. They know where to reach me if they want to. So we're looking forward to a better year for sure.
Yeah. And on that aspect, is there anything you would like to do or to keep going to do in the next year to encourage people to get more involved in their municipality?
Yeah, you know, we've had more surveys, you know, in the past year and a half than we've had in the last, like, I think 5 years or even since I've been on council. And our goal is to always go out and try to get people's opinions on things, right? And so surveys are incredibly important. That is how we hear from citizens on whether they like the programming that we have, whether they want more programming. They've told us through the strategic plan they wanted more trails. We're looking at a vision on the Ottawa River right now, which would put in like 7 kilometers of walking trails. And again, that falls into the redevelopment of the parks, as well as the vision for that entire section. And so we have to continue putting surveys out and continue making sure that citizens respond to those surveys. I think Talktober, I think, only saw maybe a few hundred people either come to the Talktober sessions or respond to surveys. And I think we need a much better engagement from citizens to be able to know exactly where we're going. But that's where we're going to go. We have to continue surveys and asking people what they want and if we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah. And last week was the last municipal council for the city for the year of 2024. What was the highlights of this council?
I would say development charges probably took the most of our time, and as it should. It's a very important part of how a municipality grows. And development charges are, for those listening who don't know what they are, but they are a fee that we charge a developer to put on the price of a home in order for us to have the financing and the money that we need to manage the growth of those houses, right? And so, going from 27,000 to 59,000 is a massive jump, and we understand why builders are frustrated at that. There's no doubt. But like I said to many builders, their job is to build a house that will stand for 50 years. And my job as part of the council is to make sure that the money is going to be there in 50 years to manage the growth that house brought. And so we have to make sure that we have competitive rates, but also if we don't raise them high enough, and if we don't follow essentially our studies that are done by professionals and they know what they're doing in that field, then the taxpayers will have to pay for that cost. And that is not what I want. And if you look at every other municipality that has low development charges, they all started this budget with a very high taxation rate. We have 27,000 that we charge, which was said to be enough back when we did our last study. And we had one of the lowest taxations.
Okay.
Now, even 6.98 is considered high, but at $169 for the year, and not having any service cuts, it's important to be able to have that conversation with the developers to make sure they understand that the residents should not pay for the growth that the housing is causing. It is the development charges that should. And that is where I'm going. Hopefully council will make a decision in the new year on that. And we don't always agree on these things, but that's democracy, right? So you have some that are against it, you have some that are for it. And I am for making sure that the development rates are exactly the rate they need to be to make sure that the resident is not shouldering that burden in the next 50 years.
All right. And financing is often one of the most difficult things for people and projects to come here in the municipality. Is there a plan to increase the Clarence-Rockland's funding?
Economic development is not an easy thing, right? And if it was just so easy to say, we want these businesses to come and move to Clarence-Rockland, we'd be filled with them. They come when their strategic plans say that they move or expand. What our job is to make sure that we lay the groundwork to ensure that they know that they can come here. If we can have, let's say, Amazon, and I'm not saying that they would, but Amazon called and said, we want to set up in Clarence-Rockland, we'd be trying to figure out, well, where could they go? This plan that we're working on right now identifies all of that and puts forth a vision to be able to advertise to the world that Clarence-Rockland is here. And that is right now what we're working on. Council approved that as part of the economic development strategy. The pieces are now in place for that to happen. And now the work begins on making sure that we have all the tools necessary to make sure that everyone knows we're open for business and having good industries. We shouldn't have to go to Ottawa to get good paying jobs. We should be able to get that right here in our city, and that's what we're working on doing.
All right. Well, that was my last question for you today. So thank you very much to have come sit with us.
Thank you.